Gingrich, on November 14th, you appeared on the Bill Riley Show, and in the context of discussing the many demonstrations that took place in the United States and around the world following California's passage of Proposition 8, you said, "I think there is a gay and secular fascism in this country that wants to oppose its will on the rest of us. It's prepared to use violence, to use harassment. I think it is prepared to use the government if it can get control of it. I think that it is a very dangerous threat to anyone who believes in traditional religion. Mr. Gingrich, our country has a long tradition ranging from the abolition of slavery to women's suffrage to the civil rights movement of using the democratic process to form a more perfect union. And I'm asking you, as an individual who happens to be gay, what you find so threatening about people using the democratic process to ensure that all Americans are equally protected under the law."
I think that's a very good question. Now let me reframe it for you and give you a chance to comment. First of all, if it's a democratic process, the people of California voted over 52% in favor of defense of marriage. Why are you opposed to the people of California having expressed their will in a democratic process? Second, and by the way, there is not a single state in which defense of marriage has been defeated in a democratic process. It's only been imposed by judges. Second, I was referring that evening, if you saw the segment, to a specific incident in a church in which an elderly woman was attacked and her cross was taken off her neck by a group of thugs. Now, I surely can't believe that you would support that kind of vicious tactic, even in defense of what you believe are your rights. And that's the specific thing I was referring to. And by the way, it was happening across California. Churches were being invaded by militants who were offended that the people of California had voted to defend marriage. And I think that's wrong. I don't think churches should be invaded by anybody.
With all due respect, you didn't address the question of the equal protection.
I don't think there is equal protection in this setting. And the people of California don't think there's equal protection. And in none of the states which have voted have the American people voted that that involves equal protection. Well, what people have said consistently is they believe in sustaining a 3,000-year tradition of defining a traditional marriage between a man and a woman. And that's a fundamental disagreement about values, but it's not. It doesn't require me to be afraid of anything. I'm in favor of a 3,000-year-old tradition, and I'm happy to rest my case on that tradition.
Good evening, and thank you for coming.
Oh, sure. Glad to be here.
I was going to ask you a question about Reaganomics and its culpability in the current crisis we're in. I was also going to ask you a question about how our overly militaristic foreign policy over the last 8 years has hurt us by alienating our allies and making NATO allies less likely to help us. But instead, after hearing the young woman's question about equal protection, I'd like to ask you about your party. Your focus on a return to the majority for Republicans. However, I'd like to ask you, and especially after noting the differences in who claps for your comments and who clapped for hers, how can you see your party returning to a majority that seeks to divide people instead of unite along such cultural lines?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Hear me out. The issue she raised in every vote in every state in the country where judges didn't impose their secular will, in every state, an absolute majority has voted in a position that I agree with. So you're telling me I would be in real trouble by being with the majority in every state in the country, so I ought to be with the minority because that way we wouldn't be divisive.
Well, that's just on this one issue, but there are...
Give me a second.